Okay, so let's just dive right in. Have you ever worked at a company that's growing like crazy, and suddenly it feels like all the stuff that used to work just doesn't anymore? You know, the simple processes, the key people you'd go to, the tools you used. Suddenly, everything is just breaking under the pressure. Look, it's a super common problem, and today we're going to break down exactly what's happening, and more importantly, how to fix it. So, this feeling, it's not just random chaos. It actually has a name. Experts call it the stuck in the middle dynamic. This is what happens when a company gets too big for its startup skin, but it isn't quite a corporate giant yet. You've outgrown all the old ways of doing things, but you haven't really built the new ones. And it is absolutely a high stakes journey where the path forward can feel, well, pretty foggy. All right, so let's get into this stuck in the middle problem. And the key here is that this isn't just some growing pain you can ignore or power through. This is the first major hurdle for a growing company, and it's the point where all this internal friction starts to build up and create a very real drag on the entire organization. So this is what it feels like to hit that great wall of growth. Those hero-based processes. You know what I'm talking about, right? That one person, a hero, really, who knows how everything works. Yeah, that just doesn't scale. After a big merger, the tech systems don't talk to each other, and you literally kill the value you were trying to create. And for your employees, the very tools that are supposed to help them just become a source of daily frustration. All of this, it builds up and creates a strained culture that makes it almost impossible to keep your best people. And this is where you can really see that painful split happening inside the company. On one side, you've got the company laser focused on these big strategic moves, mergers and acquisitions, automation, new business models. But on the other side, you got the employees who are feeling the pain on the ground. They need clarity, they need a better culture, they need modern, simple tools that actually work. This gap, this is where growth stalls. So, the big question is, how do you fix this? How do you bridge that gap? Well, the answer is often hiding in plain sight, in a place a lot of companies overlook, their internal technology. We're talking about the digital backbone of the entire organization. I want you to think about something like an internal enterprise platform, not just as, an IT tool, but as the company's central nervous system. It's the digital infrastructure that connects every single department, from HR to finance to sales, and it automates the flow of work between them. It is what allows a modern company to actually execute on its strategy. And I really want to make this clear. This is so much more than just fixing IT tickets. A properly implemented central platform is what lets you integrate a newly acquired company smoothly. It's how you win the war for talent by giving your people a modern, frictionless experience. We're talking about a strategic asset here, not just a glorified help desk. This is where your business strategy becomes reality. Okay, so you're sold on the idea, but how do you actually get this central nervous system working right? Well, you can't just flip a switch, and throwing more software at the problem won't work either. You need a strategic plan, and that plan starts with a structured health check, an assessment to figure out what's working, what's not, and where you actually need to go. So what does that actually look like in practice? Well, a really good assessment breaks down into 3 simple, logical steps. First, discovery. This is all about aligning with the why. What are the business goals we're trying to hit? Second, you do a deep dive, a technical and process analysis to understand the what. What's the reality of how things work today? And third, you do a gap analysis to create a prioritized roadmap. That's the how, a real, actionable plan for the future. And what's so powerful about this is seeing how it all comes together in a really concrete, manageable way. This isn't some endless project. We're talking about 6 weeks to go from total confusion to crystal clarity. In the first couple of weeks, you get a strategic summary so everyone's on the same page. Then, by week 4, boom, you get the real deal findings on what's actually going on. And by the end of week 6, you have it, a final, prioritized roadmap, a clear guide for where to invest your time and money. Okay, that all sounds great on paper, right? But does this stuff actually work in the real world? Let's look at the proof. Here's how this strategic approach delivered some pretty dramatic results for real companies that were facing these exact stuck-in-the-middle challenges. All right, first up, 95%. What is that? Well, for one financial company that was drowning in manual compliance work, this assessment led to a 95% reduction in those manual tasks. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. That's not just making things a little more efficient. It's a fundamental shift that saves a ton of time, cuts costs, and massively reduces risk. Okay, and then there's this number, 74%. For another company that had that strained culture we talked about, this was the adoption rate for their new self-service tools. And this proves a point that is so important. Your people aren't resistant to change. They're resistant to bad tools that make their lives harder. If you give them something that actually works, they will absolutely use it. So this really pulls it all together. Check it out. On one side, you've got this financial firm. Their problem? They were literally failing audits because of all these manual processes. The assessment focused on governance and security, and the result was that 95% reduction and 2 straight years of successful audits. Then on the other side, a real estate firm. Their problem wasn't compliance, it was culture. So the focus was on the employee experience, which led to that 74% adoption rate and way better engagement scores. 2 totally different problems, 1 strategic approach, and 2 incredibly powerful outcomes. All right, so let's zoom out for a second. What's the big takeaway from all of this? What's the lesson here? It really comes down to connecting these examples to a universal truth for any modern business out there.
Here it is. This is the single most important thing to understand. In today's world, your tech is not some support function that just sits in the basement fixing laptops. Your business strategy and your technology strategy, they are the exact same thing. How you use your internal platforms, that directly determines how well you can grow, how you can integrate new companies, and whether or not you can keep your best people. They are one and the same. So, I'm going to leave you with one final question to chew on, to think about for your own company. Is your technology an engine, actively pushing your strategy forward and making work better for everyone? Or is it an anchor, weighing the whole business down with friction and frustration? And honestly, the answer to that question, that could be the difference between winning and getting left behind.